So, hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Ahlmeirah Ariel Hallaire on Divine Healing, Master Keys to Ascension. Ahlmeirah qualified as a medical doctor in the 90s in Ireland, and after some years working in the profession, left following a profound transformational spiritual experience. She moved to England in 2000 and for some years worked as a healer and spiritual teacher. She co-authored the Divine Healing Master Key System of multidimensional healing, which she teaches as a tool for self-healing and practitioners. And her website is centerofloveandenlightenment.net. Hi, Ahlmeirah.
Hi there, Steve.
So, how did it all come into being?
Well, it was a kind of a magical process, actually. I think I wanted for a long time to have a system that people could learn in an easy way, and then they could be able to work on themselves. Because most of the people that I work with are people who are on a path of, kind of strong spiritual awakening. And what happens when you're on a path of growth is that lots of things come up for healing all the time. And if you keep having to go to a therapist, you end up spending so much time, energy, money, etc. So I wanted to have a system that people could just use on themselves when and if they needed it. And that's how Divine Healing came about, actually.
Now, the system is a multidimensional healing system. Can you just explain that to the people listening to the podcast?
Multidimensional basically means that we're working on lots of levels at the same time. So, as humans, we're all multidimensional beings, which means that we operate here in the third dimension in our physical body, but there's also parts of us in other dimensions, our energy bodies, our spiritual bodies, etc. But from a higher perspective, we're also operating in past lives, in parallels, in other dimensions, and all of this is happening all at once. And there's also part of our energy that's connected to our ancestors. And a multidimensional system of healing works on all those levels all at once. So it's very powerful and you get very rapid transformation.
Do you think a lot of the problems people face today are not just explainable from this dimension? There are these past influences and parallel influences and other dimensional influences.
Yes, I think so. And that's why if you just use one approach, it takes so long to heal something.
How does the system work? Practically, if somebody was sitting down for a session, what would they see or feel or experience?
Well, it's based on the understanding that inside each of us, there's this big light, our power, our light, our beauty, and we all have this huge amount of light. The challenge is that it's covered over with layers of programs, traumas, toxins, and then that prevents our full potential from expressing itself. So basically, the Divine Healing is about clearing those layers. And in the session, people feel the energy releasing, they feel themselves getting lighter, they feel themselves more at ease and more at peace, more aligned inside.
Does it work with, you could say, angelic forces or spirit guides or higher self? What's the kind of working on the other side of the veil, so to speak?
Oh yes, on the other side of the veil, everything's involved. And this is one of the rare things about Divine Healing, is that it works with many different planes. So of course higher self is involved, but also the angelics, the Elohim, many of the star beings like the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Arcturians, these come in as well. And very often if a person has a specific issue, I might have a couple of specialists come in just to help that person.
All right.
Yeah, it's very specific to what's needed.
Gosh, it's almost like Google. You can go into Google and just say, I need a specialist, and they come. Galactic Google. I know the system over the years of knowing you, and the applications of this system are quite broad. As you say, it touches on a number of issues. Can you just explain the type of ancestral issues that could be cleared?
Ancestral issues are really important to clear. It's been proved actually that we carry trauma from our ancestors. So, for example, if we had some of our ancestors who died in the First World War, that trauma can be carried down generation to generation and create lots of fears in us, create lots of sabotages, creates the ability to create happiness in our lives, or maybe blocks the ability to have abundance or health. It can affect us in so many different ways. Very often we have limitations that come directly from our ancestors. So, for example, if a bunch of our ancestors were very religious and they believed that money was bad because it takes you away from the spiritual, then we might have a lot of trouble and problems manifesting finances. That's a very classical way that it will happen.
And I'm sure that will be of interest to a lot of people to hear that. So ancestral issues are very deep. Past lives, I mean, that's vast, isn't it? What kind of typical issues can we clear in past lives?
It's absolutely enormous. Past life issues are often related to stories and something that's unfinished. So, for example, if we made a promise to somebody in a past life that we couldn't do it, we couldn't achieve it in that lifetime, somehow we get tied to that promise. So there's a part of us, there's part of our energy that's still trying to create that outcome, and of course we've forgotten it. So we feel bound in a certain way. So these types of promises or vows or contracts from past lives create bindings on our soul, which limit us very powerfully. And they carry on from life to life to life to life until we clear them.
That kind of reminds me also of religious type of vows, where we promise to be obedient, celibate, and poor, those kind of vows. Are they a problem also?
Oh yes, I'm constantly clearing those things in people. The other thing that's really important from past lives is traumas. For example, I worked with a lady who was burnt in a wheat field. It was an accident. The wheat field went on fire and she died in the fire. And in this life, she had a horrific wheat allergy. And when we cleared the past life, that was it. The wheat allergy was gone.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, so it can really affect you not just emotionally and energetically, but it can also affect your physicality in a way that's very mysterious. Wheat allergy is a mysterious thing. Where does it come from?
Yeah. I would never have connected it to being burnt alive in a wheat field, but yeah, I guess there are all kinds of connections like that from past lives, which we are not, you can't rationally kind of connect them.
No, and we don't remember them. Most of us, we don't remember our past lives, so you need a bit of help to kind of get to them, really.
Now, the system works with blocks in the chakras and subtle bodies. What kind of blocks are there, and what effects would they have?
Well, our chakras are basically transformers of energy, so they channel higher frequency energy into our body, and they're all linked to certain organs and certain qualities. So, for example, our throat chakra, is very clearly linked to our ability to express ourselves. But at a more psycho-spiritual level, it's also linked to our ability to manifest, because sound is creative. So, for example, if you had a block in your chakra from a past life where you have the feeling that it's not okay to speak your truth because it's a dangerous thing, because in this past life you did speak your truth and then you were burnt at the stake as a result of it, that can create a block in your throat chakra, that sort of thing. And similarly, they can affect the energy bodies.
Well, the system also clears things such as phobias. Could you give an example of how a phobia has been cleared and what was the root cause of it?
I had a very interesting experience with a person who had a phobia about music.
Really?
I know, it sounds like a weird one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And when we got into the root of it, it all came back to when he was a child. He was forced to take piano lessons. And he hated the teacher, and he hated being forced, because he's one of those, kind of free spirit type kids.
Yeah.
And it created a block in him, which developed into a phobia later on in his life.
And the system was able to clear that?
Yeah, but actually it didn't manifest as a phobia to music. It manifested more as a kind of a phobia in life. He was just frightened and very, he was afraid of leaving the house and afraid of expressing himself and afraid of meeting people and stuff like that. And it was all down to that trauma.
Wow.
It was really interesting.
So the system does have a research aspect, you could say, where you can kind of dive down and find what is the root cause of something and then clear it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
The system is not just energetic, it's not just working on chakras, it's also very much working with the body's hydration, the body's nutrition, and the body's biochemistry. So this is like physical body stuff. How does the system work with that?
Well, basically that is based on the understanding that everything in the physical body actually starts off, everything that's physical actually starts off in the world of spirit. And that's, what we call part of the out-breath of the divine, that initially everything's spiritual and then gradually it manifests. And so you can actually ask spirit to encode a particular nutrition or a particular remedy or a particular color or an essence or whatever, and that manifests into the physical. And in fact, if you think about it, all the people who are breatharians, who don't eat, that's how they do it. They just infuse spiritual energy into their body, which feeds their physical body. and they survive. And according to medicine, that's not possible.
Yeah, of course. And you'd know, you trained as a doctor, so.
Yes.
It seems that people doing this training will receive a number of benefits. It sounds like a very powerful healing tool, that they can heal themselves or others. What other benefits are there of doing this training?
Well, the other major benefit is that it connects you to more and more of your higher self, because we have a pathway of connection, I call it the channel, between the human self and the higher self. And every time you do a spiritual practice, like a meditation, that pathway gets used. And so when we use a pathway, it gets stronger, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And divine healing is a spiritual practice. So every time you practice divine healing, that pathway gets stronger and stronger and wider. So the practice of divine healing will also expand your ability to channel, your intuition, your ability to know, your ability to feel the truth, all those spiritual qualities.
How many levels of the training are there?
Overall, with my my co-creators, we created 4 levels, and then a couple of years ago, I channeled the 5th level.
Right.
So at the moment, there's 5 levels.
Now, I know that level 1 is coming up in November, 15th to 18th of November 2018, and then next year there's one 4th to the 7th of April 2019, and they happen twice a year. How long are these trainings?
Well, each module or each level is 4-day group, and it's pretty intense. I mean, obviously there's theory, and I give demonstrations, and then people practice. So it's very hands-on. The idea is that by the end of the 4 days, you feel confident to use the manual on yourself, and you've also received a huge amount of healing in the course of those 4 days.
And there will be a link going out with this podcast. The website is centerofloveandenlightenment.net. If you're interested in finding out more, do drop Ahlmeirah a line. And Ahlmeirah, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you so much, Steve.